Hi there. The goal of this project is to repower this classic Scarab offshore powerboat with a Mazda RX-7 13B turbo engine. So far, we've made new engine mounts to suit the engine, custom bell housing, adapted the drive coupler, we've mounted a seawater pump to the engine, constructed heat exchangers for water, oil and air, made a water jacketed exhaust system, and we've made a new fuel tank and a fuel delivery system, and we've made a custom water strainer which has got a fuel cooler and scratch built intake manifold. To get the engine running and closer to sea trials, we need to finish up the fabrication of custom engine parts. First up, the oil breather. So my plan is, I've made a custom oil filler neck with an expansion chamber, and then above the expansion chamber, further up the neck, I've added in a fitting to take a hose to another expansion tank that feeds up from the bottom of the tank and is drawn through a stainless wool out the top and into the intake pipe that feeds the turbo. So it should have a pretty good vacuum, and I'm hoping that's going to work. Otherwise, back to the drawing board. Second, I need to make a new thermostat cover, which, like the factory cover, has an air separation pot inside, which runs to an air separation tank, which is also the header tank, and has the pressure cap and the overflow for the recovery system on that tank. Unlike the factory cover, which runs directly to the radiator, my cover runs to the turbo exhaust housing and the wastegate body, which are water cooled with engine coolant. To ensure that there's adequate cooling for the exhaust parts, because the turbo is going to get hot all the time, there is a bypass for the thermostat which allows a small amount of coolant to always flow past, so hopefully it doesn't boil off. At the moment I'm at about 8 mil, but I can put a restrictor in the line if need be. And of course, to finish the water system off, I also need to make an overflow bottle, which I'll make out of aluminium. Number 3, I need to make an intake pipe for the air filter to the front of the turbo, which has the fitting for the oil breather incorporated. Number 4 on the list would be the intercooler plumbing. From the turbocharger, I'm using a 2.5 to 4 inch silicon elbow, 90 degree, and then I've made a 4 inch lobster back bend to the intercooler with a straight 4 inch pipe into the intercooler. Exiting the intercooler, I used a 4 inch silicon 90 degree elbow and some straight 4 inch stainless steel tubing with a 4 inch mandrel bend, and made a fitting up so that at high pressure, if we go there, it doesn't blow off. Assuming the engine's probably going to be lifted in and out a few more times, we've made a custom lift bracket which we can set the balance up perfectly, and it's far less likely to scratch the paint. The boat's existing wiring seems to have a lot of corrosion on the exposed wires, and the majority will not be used, so Along with the ECU harness, I will separate what's required for the stern leg and remake the rest from scratch. So that'll be the starting system, the charging system, and all the extra accessories, as well as the wiring harness. For engine management, I'm going to use a Apex Power FC and the data log it to tune it. To make up the engine harness, I got the ECU plugs and mil-spec wire from RS Components, and I got the engine sensor plugs from NZ EFI. And I've made a special bracket to hold the ECU behind the dash on the bulkhead. Power FC works best using the factory sensors like the throttle position sensor, air intake temperature, water temperature, crank angle, and it also means that I get to use the oil metering pump. But we have changed the coils to the Mercury high output smart coils. The new fuel tank needs to be fitted back in place and have the filler, breather, pickup and return ready so we can add some fuel and hopefully fire up the engine. We have made a spreader with some threaded rod, nuts and some washers that push on polyurethane discs to hold the tank in place. The corner of the fuel tank has extra stiffness built in for peace of mind. At this point, the engine is ready to be fitted back in the boat. The water-cooled exhausts are polished and plumbed up, ready to go. The turbo and wastegate both have their own water-cooled exhaust pipes. Once seawater has passed through the heat exchangers, it runs through the exhaust manifold and then splits into the two exhaust pipes. The seawater is then mixed with the exhaust gases before exiting the tailpipe. For extra insurance, the transom exhaust pipes have flappers fitted to help prevent any backwash. I need to test my wiring. If I can't make the Power FC work, then I'll have to rethink the engine management. Okay, so we think everything is ready for a test fire. So we have filled the engine with coolant and oil. For this test, I won't have the seawater pump or power steering belt on the engine. There's no power steering fluid in there yet, and I've made a water fitting that connects to the heat exchangers that allows us to run the hose. At this point, these are the dwell settings I've added in for the coils. Hope they don't cook. And the injector lag settings I used to set the basics up on the Power FC. After the first fire up, I adjusted the TPS to within normal range, although not sure how that's going to work with the single blade throttle body. And adjusted the fuel mixture till it sounded about right. At this point I don't have the wideband sensor fitted, so the tuning will have to wait.